Got a minute 50.
Welcome to the Grafton To Inverell, one of Australia's oldest one-day races. It's been running for over 60 years, and to say it is iconic is an understatement. It's a race that can throw you absolutely anything, and today I want to share with you my 2024 story. The highs, the lows, the mistakes, the wins, but going all in to get a result in the 2024 Grafton To Inverell. All right, let's go from Grafton to Inverell. It's actually quite a long way. Let me show you just how this plays out. So it starts really with this 70k lumpy section where you run out from the coast. It's a lot lumpier than people think. You then make your way up the Gibraltar range. It's an Cat 1,000 metre, 40 odd minute climb. You then make your way onto some open, windswept plains between the two feed zones. And finally, the bit that everyone forgets, the last lumps into Inverell. But you did not come here for a geography lesson. You came here for a race recap. So we'll jump on board with my camera. 235 Ks, 3,500 meters of climbing. And when you look at that elevation profile, it's really misleading because of that big 1,000 meter climb. Everyone forgets all these other little bumps, but it's a super bumpy race. And this is the first one. It comes about 20 Ks into the race. It's the Cuttle Creek climb. It's like a 4 or 5 minute climb. And what I want to do is, as we go up this, just share with you my thoughts, my strategy for this early part of the race. And that's to be reactive, not proactive. I'm not trying to instigate things as such. I'm ignoring these sprints for points and KOMs and kind of staying out of that game and look for counter-attacks. So look for opportunities to go over the top of other attacks. So here we are on this Cuttle Creek climb, and you can see here, this is when races within races start happening. And I got a sense really early that at this particular point, you got team lead-outs and things like this happening at this point of the race. Why are people doing that? Well, they're doing that for these KOM points, for these sprint points. So as we said in my race recap, I'm not trying to get involved with them, but if these things cause splits, obviously there's a strong guys going away. I have to be a part of that. So this is a perfect example. Like, I'm on my absolute limit here, but I didn't jump across to that. I know those boys are going hard, but I also know that when they all sort of get together like this, they're going to be a little bit looking around at each other because they are racing a bit for these points. So again, just stay away from that super sprinty type effort. And you can kind of see, and now as we come right up to the top, you're going to see this, like my early tactics play out. So we've got 500 meters to the summit. And what do we got? This is actually quite cool to watch. So 500 meters, old made up the inside sprints. And I don't know whether he just didn't know where the finish line was, but yeah, he put in a big dig with 500 meters to go when he beat at VO2, and that is not going to work out well. Great shot here of the guys crossing the line. There's me coming through. Now, as we said, counterattacks. This is sort of where I'm hoping to maybe gain an advantage, trying something here. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. You kind of see where my head's at for the early part of this race. The Gibraltar Range climb. This is the big daddy. This is the one everyone talks about when they think about doing Grafton, and the numbers do stack up. It's a 16k climb. It's over 1,000 meters of climbing. It's a super consistent gradient. But my strategy for this is really clear. So I'm following moves if guys want to attack on it. I'm thinking a bit about power. I'm happy to keep the power roughly around a 300 watt average. I'm happy to get involved with pace making. I'm happy to keep that pace up, but underlying the fact that nobody wins Grafton on Gibraltar, I will be constantly thinking about that. And here's just a quick example. I do jump on the front a couple of times just to make sure that the pace is kept reasonably high. This is maybe a good chance to talk about the bike. And specifically the gearing. So you guys know that I've been running the Cervelo S5 for a while, and I have been seeing it up one by. I've obviously talked a lot about this on the show, but I did want to just quickly show you the gearing breakdown, because look, whilst it's worked from a minimum and maximum perspective, chain efficiency people will tell you that split's not ideal, especially that 10-tooth, 11-tooth, 12-tooth split. That would have been fixed by running like a 52 with a 2x, which would have given me a bigger gear, and I would have spent less time down in those small cogs. Again, as we come up towards the summit, it's been a pretty solid Gibraltar, certainly not one of the fastest I've ever done, but again, you're just seeing that same tactic play out here. You're seeing guys sprinting, that's the 300 meters to go mark for the summit, Guys sprinting for those KOM points, something I'm plainly not interested in. You can see them sitting up as they go over it. What would a race recap video be like without some nutrition chat? All right, so Grafton to Inverell, 235 Ks. You have 2 feed zones, 2 supported feed zones, one at 120 Ks, one at 160. And so the key is actually to get the timing right. So up to this point, I'd had 2 bottles with 80 grams of carbs in them. I'd had my 1 sugar flask, which was in the back of my jersey, and 1 SAS beta fuel. Thank you, Dad. Dad just gave me in that bag 1 water bottle, another sugar flask, so I'll just swap the sugar flasks over, and I'll take another beta fuel gel. So again, this is me just trying to time the actual intake of the carbs really with the feed zones. And I've got 1 more support staff up there, my mum with the yellow umbrella. Thank you, Mum. And I just got a water bottle from her and gave her the empty sugar flask. The third sector, open plains between the feed zones. So actually, like, the environment totally changes. One of the coolest things about this race is just the way the environment changes. But my strategy totally changes here. I want to be aggressive. My whole plan here is to be aggressive, is to look for opportunities to get on the front foot, look for things like hills, wind. There's normally wind along here, and eat and drink. That's really where I'm at. Now, it's one thing to have a race strategy coming in. It's another thing to race the race that the riders give you. And this is a perfect example of that. This did not play out at all the way I thought it was going to play. In fact, the only way to show you this is we averaged for this sector 43 kilometers an hour, and I averaged less than 150 watts. And this was me trying to be aggressive. Just the speed was so high in this bunch, and guys were so willing to ride hard at certain moments that we all stayed together. We all raced very fast, but it was relatively easy, which was very strange and concerning from my perspective because I wanted to make this sector hard. So coming into the final feed zone, thank you, Dad. Really, I'd only ticked 1 box of that sector, which was eat and drink. So I had gone through most of that sugar flask. From Dad, I just picked up a water bottle, a caffeine gel, and the infamous Insta360 camera. And thank you, Mum. Mum just gives me a water bottle from there. And as I store that away on the bike, I'm a little bit concerned. Obviously, I've got all these guys still with me. Everyone had a pretty easy ride, and there goes the infamous. So that's the infamous camera, ladies and gentlemen. The Insta360 Media Mod, stored in there somewhere in Glen Innes, never to be found. All right, the final sector from Glen Innes to Inverell. And these are the plans that I'd written down with Dan. Test your legs on Waterloo, the first climb out of Glen Innes. No stupid long-range attacks. It's just going to be tailwind. And there's still 60 Ks. There's 2 hours of racing, so don't panic. Don't panic. Race the race that's in front of you. So this is that first climb out of Glen Innes we talked about, the Waterloo Ascent. Or on Strava, it's called the Sinclair Lookout. All right, time to go. Truth is, at this point, I had not turned around. I had no idea. And so I thought I was being dropped by the race here. So this is all in to the top, to what I thought was to stay in contact with the race. Will takes the KOM. Chris comes across second and just stops pedaling. But Will gives me one look, turns around, wait for it, there. And that means we're gonna go. And you know what? This is the time to go. We got this 35-second gap super quickly, but then for endless kilometers, for like 20 Ks, it just stayed at 30 seconds, which is just the worst time gap. It's right in between, stuff it, we'll give up, they'll come back when maybe we'll recover, and go all in. Thankfully, we chose go all in.
Got a minute 50. Sorry.
These last climbs are so insignificant, like on Strava. It must be a little bit like people look at the Poggio, because they're tiny little climbs, but they are, after 200 Ks, they're so decisive. And the last one of those is Wire Gully. And Will and I hit Wire Gully with what we thought was about a minute and a half gap. So again, it had to be full gas up this thing to get over it. And that was my plan, my mentality, just go everything I had. You saw me looking back on that climb because half of me does not want to go alone from here. If for the first time in over 200 Ks you turn off the main road onto this rough road into Inverell, it is brutal. It's brutal alone. Thankfully, I was so lucky. I had a tailwind, so this was just a matter of putting your head down and giving it absolutely everything you've got. I can remember talking to Jesse running up to this, I think on the show, saying the only change I would make from the previous year's Grafton and this one was to run 30mm tyres, and this is the reason why. It's right now, that's when you really like that tyre width.
It's coming into the last climb on the edge of cramping. I'm just going to nurse it.
I finally got a time check that was over 3 minutes. I wasn't sure whether that was over 3 minutes to Will or whether that was over 3 minutes to the bunch. So whilst I was nursing it, quote unquote, I was still quite panicky because if that's 3 minutes to the bunch, I knew Will was somewhere in between.
I can't believe I won that.
And I still can't, because the mindset coming into Glen Innes was just, I had a really bad feeling about how this was gonna play out, but yeah, I got lucky.
Oh my God.
There'll no doubt be guys in the race with far more impressive numbers than what I managed from today. But I suppose the takeaway really from the video is just tactically, maybe that was one of my better performances, really.
Oh my God.
So to get the arms in the air was obviously super cool, but what I will really remember is to be able to share that with Mum and Dad. It's been a strange year for us this year, so I will really cherish this picture and being able to share that experience with the two of them. I also just want to give a couple of shout outs to two photographers who were there at the event. This can't be undervalued when it comes to these events. Brock, our man on the moto carrying the GoPro, thank you so much for that. And finally, quick shout to Bentley and Ben, two former Nero Continental riders, first and second in the NRS, the pro version of the Grafton to Inverell. Obviously, I really enjoyed making that video. I would love to hear from yourself in terms of how you would like me maybe to build these race videos going into the future, different things you would like to see, because ultimately, you know, it's a little bit of information, but I would like it to be entertaining mostly, more than anything else. All right, guys, do make sure to hit the big like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you real soon.